So, hi Steve, how are you?
Hello, Michelle. How are you?
I'm not too bad at all, thank you. Yeah, the sun is shining here, so all is good in the world of Exeter. How about up there with yourself?
Well, in Nottingham, it's not that sunny. And actually, I forgot to answer your question there. You asked me how I was. I'm terribly well. Very good.
It's,
Thank
it's
you.
pleased to hear it. Pleased to hear it. Got off on
Yeah.
a good start. Fantastic. Well,
Yes.
Steve, obviously just do a little introduction about yourself for those that don't know you. So you've been working in sales for around 40 years. So you've got vast level of experience across several sectors. As a sales trainer, you work with Ailing and Fairling companies to naturally improve their performance, on the back of that, improve their revenue. And I know you do sort of pride yourselves on being able to gain fast and big improvements for them, which is obviously what a lot of companies want. So, fantastic. I know you also work with sort of small, local, national, multinational companies. So you've got experience sort of across the board of that as well. And on the fact you started your first sales role, Steve, when you were 14 years old. So a few years ago now. I won't obviously mention how many exactly, but we'll let our viewers guess that one. Can you tell me a little bit about what that first role was, Steve? And did you kind of fall into it, or was sales a path you chose?
Well, that's a nice introduction. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, long time, and you just can't tell,
Mm.
can you?
No,
But
not at all. It's an
my youthful
anti-aging
demeanor,
cream.
yeah. No, what it was, I had one of those things when I was a kid. I don't know whether you or anybody watching this may have had one, called a Saturday job. Yeah.
Yeah,
And the
definitely.
Saturday job was working on a market. And then when we used to finish up, I always used to wait for, I worked with the lady, and we used to wait for her husband to come back from another market and help him unpack. And so we'd have a cup of tea at her house. And a lot of the time, one of her sons, David, would turn up, and we became good friends. And he was an insurance broker. And so
Hmm.
he said to me one day, do you fancy doing a couple of nights a week, for 2 or 3 hours at our offices, just calling people up out of the phone book and asking them when their general insurance is due, contents, buildings insurance, car insurance, and saying, would they mind an appointment with him to sort of give them a better quote. So that was really where my quote unquote telesales career started. And I did that for about 3 or 4 months, maybe 5 months. And he used to pay me a bit of money, and then every now and then when he'd got one, caught a live one, he'd give me a bit of a bonus. So
Brilliant.
even though he didn't call it commission, he'd just say, oh, I got one. That was actually, when I think back, that was my first experience with commission. Yeah. So
Fantastic. And
that
even,
was, yeah, it was a long time ago.
yeah, no, yeah, well, yeah, we won't mention exactly how long, but a few years ago. And
I
Steve, I
don't
mean,
mind. I'm 55, and I've probably got a mental age of about 18. And you probably saw when I spoke to Bob Proctor, he said age is just a number. And
yeah,
I'll tell you
definitely.
something really weird with me. If I go into, let's think, a bank or a opticians or anywhere where you've got people, who've got a collar and tie on, a young guy, glasses on, and they're quite sort of prim and proper and rather officious. I actually feel that, and very serious as well, never smile. I actually feel that those people are a lot older than me, even though I'm probably twice their age.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know what you
I just
mean.
feel
Yeah.
that they're older. I'm the kid,
Mm.
and yeah,
Mm.
so that's
Yeah, it's
my
what you make of it, isn't it, really? What your sort of your attitude is to life and to work
yeah,
and
that's my attitude and
sales.
my outlook.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
fair play. And then, Steve, in 2001, you made the transition from being sort of an employed salesperson into sales training. What made you make that transition? I mean, what was kind of the buzz and the attraction for you of the training side?
Well, you know what? I'd always gotten involved in the sort of helping other people
Mm.
when I worked in situations. So I never had a real job. I had a job for literally about 6 months, and that was doing a lot. It was selling life insurance and pensions door to door. in the less salubrious areas of South Yorkshire, you know. And so the two words, you can imagine the two words that I heard the most often. Yeah, I'm not going to say them on here, but what I will qualify it with is saying it wasn't come in.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, I can imagine.
Okay? Yeah. So I sort of cut my teeth in that environment, and that job had a small basic wage with it. And if you stayed there for about 5 years, you could make manager and get a Ford Escort thrown into the bargain as well.
Fantastic.
And so when I said to my parents, I'm leaving this job to go self-employed, because I had discovered commission then, and I found out by going self-employed. Had an interview with a company called Allied Dunbar. Didn't go with them. Went with a new company that Citibank was setting up, which was very exciting at the time. And the commission was huge. It was like 6-7 times the money that I would get for an equivalent sale where I was. But my parents kind of had a little bit of a fit about that, and it's where are you going to get your customers from, and you know you could have a good career there and a job for life. So it was very much that attitude. But I took to it like a duck to water. I did what I'd always been doing, and I got into helping other people as they came in and sort of struggled or didn't struggle, whatever. But I would always sort of help people, and obviously I didn't realize then that I was actually mentoring and coaching people. It's just here, mate, I'll give you a hand with that, or you know, you want to say that, because we would pitch people a lot, cold calling on the telephone in those days to try and make appointments to go and sell financial services. This is before the FSA or anything like that was, you know, GDPR was ever even dreamt up. So it was a very different environment. But yeah, so I guess when I decided to be a trainer within organizations and an external trainer, it's probably just a natural evolution of that. And obviously I've been on countless training seminars that I've funded myself, and this is always an interesting thing in sales. You know, when I talk to companies and they don't really do sales training, and they don't really send their people to conferences or, you know, sales. You think, well, why don't you do that? Because your salespeople are the people who are bringing home the bacon at the end of the day. They bring the money in, and you would want to keep their motivation peak, and you would want to keep their skill sets up to date and peak and everything. Yeah.
Definitely. And on the back of that, Steve, you know, you're a fantastic sales trainer. You've earned sort of 6-figure sums, you know, annual salaries. I know your best achievement to date is a 74% uplift for a multinational company, which will remain unnamed for now, but that was in around a sort of 3-month period, which is amazing. I know you also guarantee that you'll provide your clients with a 20% increase in sale for those that obviously work with you, which for me personally is a no-brainer. I mean, why wouldn't a company want to work with someone that's going to bring in a 20% increase in sales? I mean, on the kind of the back of that, and obviously the time scale that you managed to transition the multinational company, is there kind of a particular time scale or time frame you would recommend companies work with you to gain the best result?
Well, that's an interesting question. It's quite a multifaceted question as well, you know, because, yeah, you know, we look, if you're not in sales to make money, I think you're in the wrong job. You know, people talk about, oh, the client this, the client that, and ethics and integrity. Yeah, that's really important, but it's a mindset. Yeah. So people who are in sales, if they are bonused or commissioned or incentivized, there's a reason for that. Yeah, it's to get them to bring in more and increase and scale the company's footprint, business, market share, etc. So if people haven't got that kind of motivation, then I think they should question the role that they're in. I've earned 7-figure amounts in commission. There's one deal I was in the 90s, commission only. That was an interesting thing actually, because it was an agricultural alternative investment program. And I went there with 6 other guys. We started, and within about, it was really hard. I'll tell you, it wasn't like pulling teeth. It was like pulling teeth and then trying to work out how to put them back in without hurting the person, without any dental experience. You know, it was completely, talk about wing it, make it up as you go along. And 4 out of the 6 of us people, they went back to previous jobs, you know. Ironically, they went back just before we turned the corner, and then the checks started coming in, and I made 1.2 million pounds in about 18 months from that. But it wasn't purely from my own sales, because I'd stayed. I got people underneath me, got override commissions, bonuses, etc. So the thing is, there, you never know, you know, stick at it, because invariably when people quit something, they don't know it, but just around the next bend, there's something nice
you're right. No, definitely. It's just persevering, isn't it? And having that resilience to persevere and remain positive.
It's persevering. You know, I'm very into this whole sort of metaphysical and mindset, which I know you like, you touched on, you look at. And faith is the ability to see and believe in something which is not yet in your reality, in your physical world. Yeah. And so if you can see yourself achieving, if you can see those results coming in and really get deep down, fervent, emotional belief and emotionally involved with that, as long as you take the actions, it should turn up. Yeah, it should turn up. It won't. If you just visualize it and dream about it and get all fuzzy wuzzy about it and take no action, it won't happen. Yeah, it's like I think it's like it's a joint effort between you or me or whoever and higher power or the universe. Yes, I'm writing a book at the moment called, well, I've written it, I've got to edit it, called The Spiritual Seller, because what we did when we did this 74% thing, it was actually with Siemens. Yeah, that was the multinational. Yeah, so it was with those guys, and I would come in on a Monday morning. I'd show up for an hour and a half, and work with this team of about 20 people. And then at the end of the 3-month period, the results had gone up. We sat down, the results had gone up 74%. And they said, well, how did you do it? And I said, well, actually, I couldn't tell you. Apart from this, I got those people to believe in themselves, and I got those people to be the best version of themselves. I got them to have a couple of them left, by the way, during this period. Yeah, and I would call that, bad phrase, but natural wastage. Yeah, you know, they've gone on to something that if you're not comfortable in the environment, then it's not a fit. You shouldn't be there. You're a square peg in a round hole, and ultimately that will make you unhappy. You know, nobody, look, Michelle, do you agree with me when I say whatever you're doing day to day, you're trading your life for it?
Yeah, 100%, definitely.
The most valuable commodity is your time, because you can't get it back again. You know, you cut your lovely long hair, it will grow back. Yeah, lose some money, you can earn some more money, but no one's worked out how to get time. It might be possible in another dimension, but it's not possible here. So if you're trading your time for something which makes you miserable, which you dread going to, which then that makes you not good at it, because you've not got the attitude, not the aptitude, but the attitude, then why would you want to do that? So you want to look for something else. We tend to be good at that which we enjoy, and we can get a little bit or a little lot passionate about, Michelle.
Yeah, that's exactly that. And I think other people pick up on that passion as well, don't they? If you're trying to sell something with no passion, well, how can you expect your client to be passionate about something that you can't sort of gain your enthusiasm?
Yeah, exactly. It's funny, you know, I just as part of my weekly routine, I fill out a lot of forms online for various offers, so that I can hear the I can hear what's going on. I like to keep myself abreast of things and aware, you know. And Oftentimes you get some really good salespeople who are vibrant, bubbly, they've not had a personality bypass, you know, really good. But then a lot of the time you get people who are literally a very drab talking brochure, and they don't even have, you know, they'll ring up and it's, is that Stephen? Yeah, I'm calling from XYZ company. So you filled this form out and off they go. So I could be having my lunch. I could be in the smallest room in the house. I could be in a very important meeting. So the basic courtesies are sometimes overlooked and forgotten. You know, may I call you Stephen, or should we start with the surname? Yeah, questionable. But I think that it doesn't hurt to ask, you know.
No,
and then
definitely.
It's important to get off on the right footing with somebody, because it's hard to backtrack and then start again if you've upset or offended somebody. Yeah,
I think those first few seconds are key, aren't they? I think in any conversation, I think you either can engage someone, or like you said, if you were in an important meeting and someone said, right, Steve, blah, 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 I'm selling this, immediately you would switch off, disengage, and they've probably lost that opportunity, haven't they?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, it's like the old adage, and a lot of these old adages are very true, Michelle. You never get a second chance to create a first impression. Yeah. And on the phone, we haven't got the visual thing. We can't shake hands. We can't be all smiley friendly. We can be smiley friendly because that will transfer in feeling, but people can't see us usually unless it's a Zoom call like this. So we've got to really raise those other skills, those other faculties to get that message across, and getting off on the right footing is probably a great place to start.
Yeah, completely agree, definitely. And then Steve, you mentioned obviously, you know, different personalities of salespeople, some good, some, you know, better than others. Do you believe that everyone that is currently a salesperson is trainable to become better? You know, have you sort of been into companies where you thought, well, actually, Bob, you know, I don't think there's any sort of help that I can give you, kind of thing? And do you believe everyone can become a good salesperson, or are some people just not cut out for it?
Well, I mean, people ask me sometimes, do you think there's such a thing as a born salesman? Which is kind of, if you look at that question in its complete reality, is a bit of a daft question. But we all know what it means. And yeah, of course, some people are more predisposed, have a, you know, better predilection towards some things than others. Some people are very arty, very creative, good at writing, good at telling stories. Other people are more analytical, you know. So it takes all types. But I think the thing that's got to be there, regardless of your personality type, the thing that's got to be there is the desire. Yeah. So if you've got the desire to do it, and you're coachable, teachable, some people are always going to do better than others. Whether that's luck, whether it's contacts, whether, you know, they were born into it, inherited it, or born, you know, the lucky sperm club, as they say. Some people are always going to do better than other people. But if you're coachable and teachable, and there is a desire there to improve and to learn and to offer more service via yourself, then I think a lot of people can do it. Definitely.
Yeah, fantastic. And then Steve, you spoke about obviously the telesalesperson then, who you've had sort of good and bad experience of. I know one of the courses you run is the Call and Grow Rich course, which is for telesales team to obviously improve their performance, and on the back of that, obviously increase revenue. Just for anyone that's watching, how does that course work? Is it kind of for the individual? Is it for the kind of a company-wide course that companies can access through yourself?
Yeah, just 1 second, please. Just 1 second, please.
No worries.
Yeah, I'm on a Zoom call recording. Thanks. Cheers. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Amazon.
Perfect timing, as always.
Yeah, you couldn't make it up, could you?
No.
Couldn't make it up. Never mind. This proves that this is a real life, not contrived.
Exactly. This is what happens in real life.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, where were we? What did you just
Yeah,
say?
so could you tell me a little bit more about how your Call and Grow Rich course works, Steve?
Okay, so basically, I nicked the title, or sorry, I was inspired by the book Call and Grow Rich. Sorry, Think and Grow Rich. Yeah,
Yeah.
Call and Grow Rich. It's kind of an obvious one. Yeah, and as well, you know, this isn't just for telesales people, although you know it's probably more aimed there. But this transcends into all areas of sales and communication. Yeah, because successful people are usually good communicators, and also the rich thing as well. When Napoleon Hill wrote that book, I've listened to Earl Nightingale's audio rendition of that book, which I'd recommend anybody to listen to that. It's what we call a perennial classic. But he says riches are whatever the reader or the listener defines as riches. It could be monetary riches, it could be relationship, it could be spirituality, it could be a whole host of things, but it's about living a better life. And one of the really cool things Earl Nightingale said, so he defines success as the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And when you break that down, progressive realization means that you're moving towards it on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. The worthy ideal is the assumption, is the goal, okay? And so we've heard this cliche before, success is a journey. And I believe that's very true. So the progressive realization of a worthy ideal means that as long as you, Michelle, have got your goals, you've got your aspirations, as long as you're taking actions daily, doesn't mean you're not successful until you arrive there. It means if you're doing that, you're already a success because you are fulfilling what it is that you set out to. Yeah. And Rome wasn't built in a day. So going back to Call and Grow Rich, it's really more a course in good communication, to help people to understand other people, to understand what motivates other people, and then to be able to communicate. We talk a lot about transference of feeling. And so people say to me, what does that mean down the telephone? So I said, well, turn it round. Have you ever called anybody and you've been all enthusiastic, you're looking forward to the cold call, something, maybe a B2B cold call or something, you've got put through to Mr. Bloggs and you say, hello, Mr. Bloggs, how you doing? You know, whatever. And he said, yeah, what? You know, the kind of person I say that makes hello sound like a threat. Yeah,
plenty of them out there.
There's plenty out there. But what does that, what then emotionally, from you being all positive, all sort of aspirational, how does that then make you feel? It changes your emotions immediately. Your stomach might tighten up, you might get tense, you might get nervous. The guy has basically put you on edge. Now that is a transference of feeling. It's a negative one, but it's a transference of feeling nonetheless. So if you can transfer good vibrations, as the Beach Boys said, down the telephone, you're going to make people feel good. It's as simple as that. Simple as that.
It's about sort of mirroring as well how people respond. I mean, obviously with the chap who was rude, obviously you wouldn't naturally mirror that, but within reason, you know, whether they're sort of, you know, old person, very polite, young person, sort of very hip, very cool, it's within reason trying to adapt your approach, isn't it, to mirror that individual?
I think it's 70-30, 30% sort of mirroring them on the phone, but 70% retaining your own personality, being yourself. I would never advocate to try and be somebody else, but and this, you know what, this is common sense stuff, Michelle. So if you do get somebody on the other end of the phone who's like, yes, good afternoon, how can I help you? Then you don't go in all jolly and say, hey, John, have I got a deal for you today? You know, because it's going to be a miss. It's going to be like that. But if he is a very, you know, I've oftentimes called people up and they're, come on, then what's all this about? Well, I know I can have a bit of banter with that guy. I can have a crack with that guy, and we're probably going to get on well. Doesn't always. Here's the interesting thing. So as salespeople, because we like to look at the glass as always being half full, when we talk to somebody who is all jovial and hail fellow well met, makes it easy for us, that's the nice part of the job. We automatically assume up here and in here that there's going to be a deal with this guy. Yeah. Oftentimes you don't get a deal with that guy, and it tends to be the person who's a bit more stoic, a bit more serious, that will actually consider your proposition. So you know, you never know.
No, that's it, definitely not. And then Steve, on a bit of a tangent, but we have a KME Sales Community Facebook page. Now, I've mentioned to our members, obviously, that I'm interviewing yourself today. One member has asked me to ask you a question around sort of team working in a sales environment. For yourself personally, how important do you feel working in a team is? I mean, do you get the same kind of emotional and motivational reward from working, you know, by yourself as an individual, or do you always feel that sort of team environment is more important?
Listen, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that if you are a member, whether you're physically together or working remotely, connected by a CRM, having WhatsApp joint calls like this, but with the whole team, if you're a part of a cohesive team where you've got two elements to that, where you can be competitive, I want to get better result than Michelle this month, but not in a vitriolic, not in a nasty way. So I want to do better than you this month, Michelle. I want my name at the top of the leaderboard. I want to earn more commission than anybody else. But if you call me up with an issue or anything like that, or want me to help you with one of your clients, I'm not going to pinch that deal from you. I'm not going to ask you for half of your commission, or I'm not going to be unhelpful. I'm actually going to help you as much as I can. There's, there's something about the mentality of people when they think, and this all comes back to being a team player, because a lot of people think they can only make a profit or do well within a team or in whatever the circumstances are, if it's at the expense or to the detriment of somebody else. That somebody else can be the customer. If it's a sharp deal, that somebody else can be a colleague, a team member. But a far better mentality is to be creative as opposed to competitive, and to realize that there is abundance out there. There is more than enough, always has been, is now, always will be, for everybody. And so if you can actually learn that you can enrich yourself as a process of enriching others, then that's a far better sort of stance to move forward from. I think Zig Ziglar said two really great things. I think we touched on these with when I interviewed Victor Antonio a few weeks ago, is that selling is something that you do for somebody, not to them. So we need to get that one ingrained in our DNA as salespeople. And secondly, he said, if you can help enough other people get what they want out of life, you'll have everything you want out of life, which is kind of a universal law of correspondence.
Definitely. I completely agree. And I think, law of attraction, isn't it? I'm a strong believer in that. And I think if you give out sort of, kindness, helpfulness, thoughtfulness, etc., not that there's any expectation that it does come back or should come back, but I do believe that if you are that sort of individual, then naturally you'll attract that, that sort of feedback yourself as well.
I mean, we need to raise our consciousness to this sort of viewpoint, and do this as a matter of course, without sort of thinking, oh, I'm going to get something back for this, just do it willingly, So if you ever want me to help you, I'll help you. I'm not going to say this is the fee. I'm not going to say what's in. I'm not even going to think to myself, oh yeah, I'll do that because Michelle will actually probably help me one day, or she'll owe me. That is not a good place to be coming from. You want to be, if you give to get,
it's not an unconscious sort of action, isn't it, to be honest?
And the whole attraction thing, it's what I'm discovering. It's the law of attraction, or the law of attraction itself is kind of a secondary law. And this was pointed out recently by Proctor. And you know what? I've known that guy 20 years, and he was massively knowledgeable, massively successful, and hugely charismatic. And like, my goodness, you know, the epitome of a professional, motivational, spiritual, personal development speaker then. But he knows so much more now because he's learning all the time. He studies every single day, you know. And he said that the law, since he done The Secret, the law of attraction, he probably knew this before, but he's probably highlighted in his awareness, in his conscious now, it's amplified, that this is a secondary law, that the law really behind of that, the primary law, is the law of vibration. So my cells are vibrating, yours are. This is matter vibrating. There's only one thing, it's called matter, and we all everything vibrates on a different frequency, and like attracts like. So try to get Radio 1, which I think I've not listened to it for years actually, but try to get Radio 1, which broadcasts on FM. Try and get it on an AM band. Good luck.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, you're gonna be turning that dial for a long time. Yeah, it's not gonna happen. So this is where we get into metaphysics in sales, but it stems from our attitude inside of our heart. So a guy called Larry Levine, who's big on LinkedIn, actually wrote a book called is the #1 bestseller called Selling from the Heart. Which is all about your intention. So if you have the right intention and you're in the right consciousness and you're at the right frequency and the right vibration, this actually activates vibrational frequencies at a cellular level in your body, and you'll attract people, environment, and circumstance that are mirrored, that are similar to that into your life. Does that make sense? Yeah,
it's an interesting way of looking at it. And yeah, I'm a firm believer in that sort of thing myself. And I think where a lot of salespeople potentially go wrong is they don't look at it from kind of I'm helping you point of view. They look at it from I don't want to ring him, I might be pestering him, or he doesn't want that. And they've already kind of predetermined the outcome before they've kind of got there. And I think if you go with the approach of actually, I've got a valuable product or service, I'm going to help this person, and it's of value to them. With the mindset, I don't think you can go too wrong, really.
There's a big thing around these. I call it phonophobia, and I guess it started with the introduction of these phones and landlines with a screen on and a thing called caller ID. And I just don't get why people are uncertain, generational millennials, people they're afraid to pick up. I mean, even a guy in another deal I'm involved with, I rang him from my other phone a few weeks ago, and he's a guy who's been around the block, and he said to me, he said, "Oh, was that you?" He said, "I didn't answer it because I didn't recognize the number." I don't get it.
No, it seems to be a norm, doesn't it, really? But yeah, I don't get it, because I think what I've been taught is any call that you get, any call you make is an opportunity in the day, or you can say no. There's nothing wrong with that, but why not try? That's the way I do it.
Yeah, there's a thing when this is in a call, and everybody's phone's the same. There's a thing down there called a red button.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So if this person annoys you, or you say no, thank you very much, I'm busy, and they go, but you can just go, thanks, bye.
Yeah, easy as, isn't it? Yeah.
That's it. Or if you're feeling rude, you can say something else to them. But I just don't. I tell you what's not going to happen. There is not a big green-eyed monster or goblin or devil going to come out of this phone and do you physical harm. It's not going to happen. Exactly. But this is something which has become pervasive in people's consciousness, like lots of other things. It gets into mass consciousness. I'll tell you what really, really irks me, not for me, I just think it's crazy. I was in a couple of years ago, I was in a mobile phone shop, won't say which one, but it's a very well-known, big independent one. And I'm waiting, there's somebody waiting in front of me, or somebody being served in front of me. There's only one person in there, someone else is at lunch, and the phone on the side, at the back of the counter, it's ringing and ringing and ringing, and they just ignore it. And that people have been taught that, oh, you've got to phone, you know, would you think that the person, would you, if it's a, would you just excuse me one moment, please? Hello, yeah, can I take your number? I'll call you back. Yeah, that's 80 phones. There's an order there for 80 phones. It could be.
Yeah, you never know, do you?
Exactly. It could be a wrong number as well, or anywhere in between. I don't get it. So companies that, and I think that if somebody hasn't actually got the common sense to answer the phone, they shouldn't be in the job in the first place to do something like that. And if they have, they've had it trained out of them. The companies said, if you're serving a customer, do not answer the phone, don't scratch him, don't do anything, you know. And that's crazy, because if you think of all their branches throughout the country, the amount of times that happens,
missed opportunities.
Who could guess at the amount of missed opportunities? Oh, you know what? I'll ring Orange instead. They're not answering.
Yeah, no, that's it, isn't it? No, definitely, very good point. I mean, Steve, for all the salespeople, you know, and that are listening today, have you got one kind of top tip, I guess, out of obviously all your years' experience? I appreciate you've probably got hundreds and hundreds of tips, but is there something you can tell the viewers today that they can take forward, you know, to working tomorrow, and then they can either see transition in their mindset and their performance, you know, something that they can kind of grab and run with fairly swiftly and start seeing any sort of change?
Yeah, well, it's a multifaceted answer. I'd say, first of all, everything about life, massively including sales, Michelle, it's about being in state. Yeah. So get yourself in state, do your preparation, know what you're going to say, don't wing it. Yeah. I'm not into scripts, because no matter how good people sound are, or how articulate they are, if they're reading from a script and they've done it 1,000 times, I can usually tell. And if I can tell, maybe somebody else can tell. But certainly get your flow there, put your own personality into it. Come from a place of good intention. Yeah. So again, if my intention is good, if it's sincere, then that goes a long way on the vibrational level. Yeah. People pick that feeling up. Yeah.
I agree.
And increase your activity. You know, the person who makes 100 calls a day, they'll get a ratio, and that'll be correlated to 100 calls. The person who makes 50 calls a day will get a ratio that's correlated to 50 calls. The person who makes 300 calls a day, so activity, action. You know that word attraction. I like playing around with words. And that word attraction, you can break it down. So you've got attract, you've got attraction, obviously, because that's the word. But then at the end of that word, you've got the word action. So you've got to take action. Somebody said to me years ago, she was a coach actually, and she said something which is very true. She said, the people who are getting the results, the people who are making the money, are the people who are taking the action.
100%.
You're not going to get there by having low activity levels or thinking that it's all going to come to you from a vision board in La La Land, because it's not.
I completely agree.
So that's what I'd really say to people. Have a good intention, prepare yourself, sound good, and get the enthusiasm up, but sincerely, not fakely, sincerely, passionately, and take all-out massive action. Definitely.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Steve. And then one of your quotes, which I love, to be fair, is sort of praise, encouragement and recognition are to salespeople what rainwater, sunlight and manure are to roses, i.e. they help them grow. From my point of view and kind of my experience, a lot of managers tend to be overly focused on kind of the company objectives, you know, targets, etc., kind of the tick box exercises. Do you think managers are kind of lacking in that almost personal kind of management, quite literally, of their salespeople? And ultimately, do you think the kind of the individual is accountable for their performance, or is some onus obviously on that manager as well?
Everyone's accountable.
Mm.
The salesperson's accountable, the manager's accountable. There's two types of managers. There's those who use a big stick, yeah, and then there's the other type who sort of get to know people, the ones who care. We all care about the results, Michelle, but if you care about the people, what's that saying? It's another one from Zig Ziglar. People don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. Yeah. So that's true for the client, prospective clients and customers that we're talking to. But it's also, it's a sales manager's job is to do a sales job on his salespeople. And he's basically is to sell them that they can do it. It's to sell them on being the best version of themselves. So when I most things that I quote, you've heard me quote Zig Ziglar 3 or 4 times there. Most things that I quote are other people's quote, but that was actually sparked by original thought, that one. And thanks for sharing it on LinkedIn yesterday. But praise. People, you know, these big American direct sales companies years ago, like Amway, the network marketing companies, yeah, pyramid companies or whatever, yeah. So their sales companies of a different nature, but those guys were very clever. They worked out, the psychologists worked out that people would do as much, if not more, for recognition, for the badge.
Yeah.
So when they turn up at the sales conference, I've got a 3-star badge, you've got a 2-star badge. Mine's gold, yours is silver. Mine's got a green line through it, which means something else, rank, you know? And they worked out that people were very motivated by recognition, yeah? Praise and encouraging people as opposed to putting people down, telling them that they're no good, they should be in another job, or, you know, if you don't get your figures up by the end of this month, Michelle, you know where the bloody door is, you know, words to that effect. And lack of encouraging people and helping people, that is not my style of management. And I think any successful long-term manager, sales manager, sports manager, shop manager, department store manager, they are people who adopt those attitudes. They're the people who their staff feel they can go to with any problem, you know, any problem, and sit down and talk for 5 minutes. So you've got to be a mentor, you've got to be a coach to get them to do the job properly, but you've got to be a life mentor, and you've got to be a mate to them as well. And above all, you've got to be sincere about it. Yeah. I tell you something funny, which I really don't like, is this sort of corporate attitude in a lot of, so I did some training at a company a few years ago, and I got very friendly with all the sales staff, and I got better friendly with the marketing manager, who was a lovely girl. We'd go out for coffees, discuss strategies, this, that, and the other. And I turn up one day, she's not there. I said, "Oh, where's so-and-so?" And everyone's quiet. Everybody's, you know, looking for something to do, picking a pen. All of a sudden, they're really busy. And then the boss said, "Oh, she's not here anymore." And then, so I said, okay, yeah, I knew what that meant, but it was just so weird, the way that the whole atmosphere, the whole dynamic in the room. And afterwards, I said to him, did you actually mean you've sacked her? He said, yeah. Why not just say that?
Yeah, of course.
It didn't work out. We let her go, you know, or whatever. Yeah, really funny. So, and it just shows, and they don't talk about that person. So how sincere are the relationships? You know, how really cohesive is the team together? It's like we're all friends as long as we're playing together. But if the minute you step outside of that circle, we're not friends. You know, and if people feel like that, they're not going to be as effective and as cohesive and as happy. If you're not happy in your work, look for other work. Really.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah, sometimes there's a sort of an us and them approach, isn't there? And I think in sales that will never work, because then the managers don't have the respect of the salespeople. And often when a manager does try and sort of, you know, whether it's training or just sort of, you know, a personal conversation, like I said, that sincerity is already lost, and that distrust. And then it's kind of a vicious circle, isn't it? And that then translates sometimes into the performance of the sales team.
Absolutely. You know, and I think the paradox is the best salespeople don't always make the best sales managers. Yeah, we all know this. But having said that, I do believe whenever I have been in a sales management or even a sales director's role, I have always at some point fairly close to the beginning of that journey, Michelle, I've always got on the phone and pitched myself, or even if I've been working from the PowerPoint or the flip chart in a group training session, I'll say, hang on, let's give us a phone. I'll get on the phone, you know, live with a prospect, cold call or appointment call to demonstrate it. And the reason that I do that is I can do it. And secondly, I think that if I'm advising you, telling you what you should be doing, and then I go and sit in the ivory tower, which is usually an office at the back of the sales room with a glass, and looking out, you can get that us and them feeling. And then you can get salespeople going, yeah, it's all right for him telling us what to do. He sits on his backside all day long, you know, doing the crossword or whatever. And that, so if you actually lead from the front and show that you can do it yourself, you'll get the respect of those people because they'll know that you can walk your talk. Make sense?
Yeah, definitely agree with that 110%. I think if you've got the hands-on approach, then it works, doesn't it? Definitely.
Yeah, I would really encourage anybody in a sales management role to be a friend to people, sincerely, be a good mentor and coach to people, encourage them, don't criticize them. When they achieve something, no matter how big or how small, give them recognition for it. You know, it lifts your self-esteem is how good you feel about yourself, which is something else which transmutes down the telephone line or face to face. Your self-esteem is driven the foundations of that are your self-image, how you really see yourself. So if you see yourself as someone successful, that will be how you feel about yourself. If you see yourself like that, and if you are praised and encouraged and then recognized for these little achievements, it builds all that and makes you into a more rounded, effective salesperson.
Definitely. I mean, from my point of view, even if a salesperson sort of doesn't achieve, then I always think there's some sort of, I say sort of praise to come off of it, but kind of, praise in a kind of indirect sense, i.e., unfortunately you didn't get that deal, Bob, but let's look at it, you've managed to build the relationship to X point, and then perhaps in the future. So there's always that almost constructive criticism rather than, oh bloody hell, Bob, what happened there, and negative.
Absolutely. I think that there's a way that you can say anything, and the nuance in your voice, your whole demeanor, are you closed, are you open, are you sort of giving, I wouldn't even say constructive, I hate that word, criticism. I really do hate it with a passion. There's an old saying, nobody ever erected a statue to a critic. I don't know how true that is, but it's I'd like to think it was perfectly true in reality, because it's not a good place to be coming from, And we get taught from an early age to be accepting of criticism. It starts at school, doesn't it? The way that in the way that that kids are spoken to or whatever. So I think we've got to change that. And definitely in sales, we don't want to be criticizing people. We want to be encouraging, praising, recognizing people's achievements. And if they screw a deal up, if they don't, if you're a sales manager, what you're doing, you're delegating the sale, because you can't be talking to 10 people at once. So now I'm not talking to anybody. I'm talking to you 10 guys who are on the phone selling. So I'm actually delegating that responsibility. But it's still my responsibility. So if I'm delegating it to you, I should help you. I should encourage you to get the best out of yourself.
Completely agree, completely agree. And Steve, with the, you obviously work with a variety of companies, you know, across all industries, across, you know, UK, globally. Have you kind of got, I guess, a sweet spot, or phrase it, of sort of type of company that you'd like to work with? I mean, or, you know, are you happy to
Not
jump
really.
into any company?
Not really. I mean, I've worked with a lot of investment companies. I've worked with Forex companies. I've worked with, I don't know how this worked, but I ended up working sort of with 4 or 5 companies on the bounce, and it wasn't recommendations, who were in the telephony business, you know, selling VoIP systems and that sort of stuff to B2B.
Yeah.
I work with those companies. I've worked with software companies. I've worked with companies within the education sector. So it doesn't really matter because the fundamentals are the same. I don't need to know. I don't need to know that industry upside down and inside out, because at the end of the day, I'm not selling, but I'm bright enough. I'm not that bright, but I'm bright enough to be able to, within half a day, understand what that business is about, and then understand how we get salespeople to best position it. And sometimes, you know, it's all down to the words that they use. It's how they're doing it. Yeah, I love this. I did a video a while ago, Michelle, and I called "How to Get More Sales Using the C Word." Yeah, which is obviously an emotive and interesting and intriguing. And in brackets, it's not what you think, because it's not what you think. So I used to get mentored by a guy called Richard Denny back in the day, who was one of the sort of first and very prolific book writers, personal development, sales and motivational speakers in the UK. And he was taught to public speak by the same coach who coached a guy called Billy Graham, who was a big evangelist speaker. Yeah, I think his son runs their organization there. So this is not about religion. This is about a structure. It's about a pitch. But most people think that it's a three structured thing, but it's not a 3 structure thing. You know, introduction, build rapport, find out what the problem is, present the solution. There's a 4th part to that. Yeah. So yes, we build rapport. So he told me Billy Graham used to stand up. He used to come over to the UK and do these big things at Wembley. And he'd identify with the audience by building rapport, by saying, I used to be just like you if you've got problems. I was going in the wrong direction. I was picking up speed, you know, and then something happened. Yeah. So he's built empathy, he's built rapport with those people. And then he'd tell them all about what the problem was, with the world. So you can talk about the problem that people are facing, but you've potentially got the solution for with your product or service. Yeah. Normally then people just go to the solution and say, right, Michelle, so we've seen what the problem is and we're really good friends because I've built up empathy and rapport with you. Here's a solution. It's this. Yeah, fantastic. This will solve all your problems. But what they don't do before they do that is the C thing, and that's talk about the consequences. So it's the consequences that if you've got a big problem, we've identified that, we've agreed that you need to do something about it, and soon. What are the consequences, Michelle, if you keep on keeping on the way you are for another month, for another 6 months, for another year? Are you still going to be in business? Are you going to be happy? Are you still going to be in your job? Yeah, that type of thing. So that was the whole sort of premise of that,
really
pointing out the consequences if you don't take action. And the reason for doing that is because people don't like to make a decision. So they know they need it. They've got the money for it. But again, it's ingrained in us, isn't it? That only fools rush in. Oh, you should think about it. You know, so people can be gagging for it, but autopilot, the paradigm kicks in and says, I'm going to think about it, Michelle. I'm gagging for it. I've got the money in my pocket, but I say, I'm going to think about it. And then I ring you up 24 hours later, or worse, and buy it from you because I've justified it to the paradigm. But what I might do as well is I might ring a competitor. You've let me go.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah, it's a really good point, to be fair, Stephen. I think a lot of decision makers as well, they fear change. So I think unless you can kind of demonstrate how it's kind of implemented, you know, the kind of the process of change and how you will help with that, and a lot of them can't get their head around what that will look like, the impact that will have on the business, you know, short term, hopefully. And then I think that's something salespeople often overlook as well, and they don't talk them through that stage because it's almost a given that it's managed by the prospect, you know, the client themselves. Whereas sometimes if you demonstrate, actually, I know there might be a short-term sort of influence then on having our product or service, but in the long run, you'll get X, Y, and Z, and we'll help you manage that sort of process of change.
Yeah. There was a buzz phrase or even a sector in training and in consultancy popped up a good few years ago now called change management. Yeah. And it's about helping people to adapt to change. And my goodness, do you need to do that now? Yeah. People don't like change. People don't like making decisions. You're absolutely right, because they don't like change. If I make a decision, it's going to take them from where they are now. That might not be a satisfactory place, but it's familiar. They deal with it every day. And we tend to either grow into our environment or shrink into it as well, whatever that environment and circumstance may be. And so we've got to get good. It's called uncertain, but this is a word that's used a lot at the moment. I hate it when people send me these messages on LinkedIn. Hi, Steve, how are you doing in these uncertain times? You know, I don't need to be reminded, you know, what an absolutely stupid thing to say to somebody, you know, what a gormless thing, you know. Oh, and I just want to reaffirm it, but Tony Robbins, very obviously but famously, it was his quote, said that the quality of your life will be in direct proportion to the amount of uncertainty that you can deal with, that you can cope with at any given time. And I think that's very true. So you've got to be, I hate this phrase, but you've got to be pushing the envelope. You've got to be trying new things, and you've got to be making decisions, because it's create or disintegrate. You can't stand still. The paradox is the only constant, consistent thing in life is change.
100%. Yeah, definitely. And I think through times of change and sort of challenges, you know, I think we grow as well as individuals. I think a lot of people would look at probably the negatives of that and see it as, you know, an obstacle. Whereas personally, I think, well, actually, this is a challenge. I'll overcome it. When I come out the other side, I'll be a better person. I'll have learned from that. I'll have developed. And to me, it's actually a positive experience. So it's about that mindset, I suppose, isn't it? Like you talked about earlier.
Yes, with anything, it's the meaning you attach to it, you know. The meaning you attach to it is then how you internalize it and emotionalize it, and everything else that we've talked about there, you know. So there's some great opportunities in your sales recruitment business now. So many people working remotely, working from home, companies actually deciding that, hey, if the corona light bulb were turned off tomorrow and everything was good with that scenario, would we still use those great big expensive offices? Because actually a lot of our people are working more effectively from home. They don't have to spend 2 hours of their day or more traveling. You know, I ran an office years ago in Chiswick, which is not the easiest place to get to if you live down in Kent, because of the trains. I had people spending 90 minutes to 2 hours to get to work. We'd finish at 7 o'clock, take some people to the pub or whatever, and then they got to get the train back home. They're not getting back till 10, 11 o'clock, going to bed, getting, so there is good stuff to come about it. I'm very, very keen to work with companies that you can have a team of people. We can get together and help with the management and with the development of those teams. There's two types of people. There's the people who will thrive under this, working from home. I can make all my phone calls sat in my boxer shorts. Fantastic. No one can see me. That's great. I can drink as much coffee. I can pig out on what I want when I want. And there are those people who will be feeling they'll be feeling a lack because they're not in the team environment. And even though, you know, not everybody wants the boss looking over their shoulder. Some people need that. Some people feel reassured by that. So then we go into the whole area here of, you know, sort of, again, another buzz phrase nowadays is mental health, but there are mental health, psychological aspects to, oh, you're not coming to the office anymore, Michelle. You're going to do the same thing. We're going to give you a computer, a CRM and a login, and you're going to do the same thing from home. How does that work for people's motivation? Yeah, because the only real type of motivation is self-motivation.
Yeah, you're right. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, from your sort of sales training perspective, obviously talking about sort of, you know, the pertinent topic at the moment, obviously the pandemic, has that impacted on how you run your training? I mean, can you use obviously technologies, you know, Zoom? Do you feel it's as effective as sort of face-to-face?
With me, not at all, really. Well, not very much. And I'll tell you why. Is because I used to, as you know, I used to live in Spain. Yeah, I lived there for about 6-7 years, but I don't speak Spanish. I can ask una cerveza grande, una más cerveza grande. That means another large beer, please. Yeah,
that's what you need to know.
Important stuff. Yeah. So what I would do with a lot of companies then is I'd either have a very long meeting like this with the team or with management, or I would travel to the UK, spend a day there. They'd obviously pay for that and put me up. And that would be a day rate thing. And then see, this type of training, you can't do it in one gulp. It's like trying to go to the gym, nearly killing yourself, lifting weights and staying on the running machine for 6 hours and thinking, I've lost 3 stone and I'm 10 times fitter than I was. You're not. You've probably done yourself a lot of damage. So little and often. So then what we would do is they'd never heard of Zoom. Quite a few of these companies, everybody's heard of Zoom now, right? Zoom is stratospheric. So I would then have a conversation with the sales manager, for example, on a Monday afternoon for 10 minutes and just find out any particular issues that had gone on in the previous week, the good, the bad and the ugly. So, but I would have a module from Call and Grow Rich planned to deliver. And then if that sales manager would tell me so-and-so is having a problem, or there's a problem with contactability, they're really struggling with, you know, the old gatekeeper thing or something like that, then I would seamlessly weave that into the session. It'd be like a 40 to 50, sometimes an hour long session. Yeah. Bit of a motor. So I'd turn up on the big Samsung screen in their boardroom, 20 of them sat round there. So we were doing this. So it's pretty much the same thing, but they won't all be in the boardroom. They'll all be in the dining room or the kitchen, the old kitchen tables become the kitchen office.
Tell me about it. Well, I think it's positive to hear that, you know, it hasn't impacted from that side. I think with any sort of, you know, salesperson myself, Zoom has been wonderful. You know, obviously I do like the face-to-face contact, don't get me wrong, but without kind of Zoom, I think the job, or, you know, the likes of that, the job is so much harder, isn't it? Because you can't kind of interact as well on the phone. I mean, in my personal experience, or body language, etc., can't be read. You know, I suppose from a training perspective, that's exactly the same, isn't it? So, you know.
Absolutely. You know, and it's very convenient, isn't it, just to be able to turn up like that. Right. No traveling. It's less expensive and all the rest of it. So it's a big change for a lot of people, but for me, it's not. I actually prefer it because I don't have to travel. Same, definitely. So Steve, we spoke a lot about obviously the sales training side. You're a man of many talents, to be fair. So, you know, entrepreneur, you do consultancy work, the training. One thing I wanted to mention is you do have your Qcast on YouTube, which I'm a follower of, and I know you interview some really influential people. Sort of fairly recently, you've interviewed Bob Proctor, who you've been fortunate to be mentored by as well. Mike Dooley, who's the New York Times best-selling author. I know he had involvement in the film The Secret, which I know you mentioned earlier. Billy Schreier, the championship boxer, who I watched that interview and love that. His energy, as I know I've said to you before, is fantastic. I wish I could box and give some to myself, to be fair. But out of all those people you've interviewed, is there one that you like really enjoyed that, or you took a lot away from on a personal note? I like all the people that I've interviewed, you know, and I've had past dealings or relationships with a lot of those people that you've mentioned. I've known Bob for 20 odd years. The funny thing was how I got to know him. Bob Proctor was a long time ago, a very nice lady called Joyce, who was in a network marketing company called Niken. She gave, I can't even remember how I knew her, how I got introduced to her, but she lived in Fulham and she gave me a tape, which had been copied many times. She said, have a listen to this. It's this guy called Bob Proctor delivering a keynote speech at one of their big sales conferences. And I was hooked as soon as I heard his voice, you know. Interesting thing. Do you ever speak to somebody on the phone and you've not seen their profile on social and you build up a mental picture of what they look like, and then they end up, when you meet them, not looking any.
Yeah.
So when I heard his voice, I got this mental picture of an old actor. He was the bad guy in Speed with Keanu Reeves, Dennis Hopper.
Yes.
And he looked nothing like him. He actually looked like a guy that Proctor looks like a guy that I used to know who lived in Knightsbridge near Harrods, yeah? So, and then I just listened and listened and listened and listened to this tape. And I think I bought some of his CDs from Nightingale Conant at the time. This is like pre-internet, just as internet's really kicking off over here in about 98, 99. And then one day in the Sunday Times business to business section, there was a small advert. It said, Bob Proctor, Science of Getting Rich, become a facilitator, work with Bob Proctor. Might have not meant a lot at that time to many people, but his name leapt off the page to me. And so that's how I got to know him in the beginning. So that's where our relationship began. I can't remember how I came across Mike Dooley, but he resonated, his message and the way that he delivers it. Have you listened to him?
I have done, yeah.
Jambo, fellow adventurers. Yeah, I love that. So the way that so we ended up helping him to put his first gig in Europe in London. We got to know him, and I've been over to the States and met him over there as well. And another really good guy is a guy called Peter Sage. His moniker is the extreme entrepreneur. Not to be confused with Rob Moore, the disruptive entrepreneur. But Pete's a great guy, and he knows so much about so much. And you never meet anybody with more energy, passion, and enthusiasm than this dude's got, you know. And he's a very well read, very well researched guy. He's a top level Tony Robbins trainer, NLP master, and an absolute expert on metaphysics, manifestation, law of attraction, stuff like that. But he's also a very regular guy, who you can have a good laugh with. So, and he's doing a fantastic course for people who are maybe hit the wall at the moment, called the Elite Mentorship Forum, EMF. You should, you know, anybody who's in sort of middle or senior management in their 40s or 50s who's hit the wall, low on energy, wondering what it's all about. You know, the kids are sort of saying, who are you? That type of thing. You know, particularly a lot of guys who are maybe a little bit lost. Pete's got a series of tools and strategies to really help those people. And what was funny is a few months ago when I was in Asia, I was having a conversation with a guy on the telephone who was in England, who I'd met on a Zoom call. And he said to me, you know what, I've been in personal development for a long time. I had 15 years away from driving a lorry, and I find myself back driving a lorry, and I'm thinking, what the hell happened? And he said, I've started this course and it's been a complete epiphany for me. He said, the first module's completely blown my mind, so I'm going to be really into that for the next 6 months. So naturally, I said, whoa, what's that? Who's that with? He said, have you ever heard of a guy called Pete Sage? I said, yeah. He's an ex-business partner of mine, and I've known him for like 18 years. Yeah. And it was Pete's course, yeah, which is fantastic, you know. Brilliant. And I let Peter know about that the next time I spoke to him, because it's important for everybody to get feedback. Yes, we all want to make money from training businesses, from selling, but it's always nice, isn't it? And I think it's very important that you get feedback that somebody's actually getting value and that you've had a positive impact on that, that person's life.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of kind of what we see the outcome as, you know, me getting a placement, for example, I think it's always nice to receive kind of a candidate or client recommendation and going, oh, well done, Michelle, lovely job, you know, really appreciate you doing X, Y, and Z. And it gives you that kind of, like I said, that self-esteem, self-worth, goes back to that praise, encouragement, which is, as you said before, has the knock-on effect, isn't it?
Absolutely. And, you know, Victor Antonio is one of the sort of premier American sales trainers over the other side of the pond. What a fantastic guy, lovely guy. When I interviewed him, it was the first time that I'd ever sort of quote unquote met him, even though it was only over Zoom. It was like I'd known him forever. Really great guy, and very, very, very knowledgeable on high ticket B2B sales. I mean, a real strategist, but also a practitioner. I like people like him, like myself, who are what I call experiential. You know, Pete Sage is very experiential. He's had some massive successes in business. I mean, this guy, he has huge visions, yeah, where a lot of us would think maybe corner shop, maybe a chain of 3 or 4 shops. He's thinking like global retail empire. Yeah, that's his sort of visualization process. But all these people, him, me, we've all had some disasters, you know. Years ago, I ended up going 25, 30 years ago, I ended up in the bankruptcy court. Something went wrong. Yeah, you know, but you learn by these things. And I think that in a trainer or a coach or a mentor, that if you've got someone who's been round the block several times and can convey that and understand it and in an art and get over to you in a very articulate and emotional way, whatever the message has to be at the time, and that's the right person for you. I used to also be mentored by Richard Denny, and I tell you something, there was never any structure to it. I would meet with him once a month, once every 5 weeks at the IOD or at some motorway services hotel or something, and we'd sit down and he'd go, tell me how it's all going, my boy, you know. And he would have some I found out later, he had some horrendous problems going on in his life. I mean, horrendous problems, marital problems, monetary all sorts of stuff. But for that time, I had him, and he was as positive, and whatever it was that I was going through, he could relate to it and tell me, oh, you know, about 10 years ago, I went through a very similar process myself. And then he tell you the story, and you get into the story, and you get and it's very engaging. And I would come away from these meetings with him, I feel so empowered. And I feel like I could just walk through that brick wall, you know, and that's the effect that you want to have on people, to encourage them to get the best out of themselves. And I was, at that time, I was running an internet advertising business, very similar to Scoot or Yell.com at the time. And I'd get on the phone going back up the motorway from meeting Richard, and I'd say, right, we're going to do this. I was fired up, you know, and that's what you need, a mentor or a coach. Billy Swear's very good at that. It's because that energy. You know,
it feeds onto you, doesn't it? You pick it up. And I think you made a good point just now about it's not just kind of the work experience, it's actually the life experience. Because if someone's been through that kind of the stage, so to speak, themselves, and they can say, well, actually, Steve, you know, I did go through that, know how you feel, mate, but I'm now doing X, Y, and Z, and this is where you can get to. Like I said, it spurs you on, doesn't it? It gives you that kind of the positivity, the motivation.
You know what? Nobody wants to be first, do they, in anything? So, and there's a thing called social proof. So if you've got somebody who's experienced, they can be your social proof that it's happened to someone. Oh, you're all right now. In fact, you're flying now, and you've been through this. I thought this was the worst thing that could ever have happened to me this morning. Now I'm attaching a different meaning to it. Yeah.
Definitely, 100% agree, definitely. Well, Steve, just to kind of round up the interview, if that's all right, I know you do a free half-hour discovery call with prospective clients. What is the best way for companies to get in touch with you?
Well, they can look me up on LinkedIn. They can get in touch with me through you. My email address is steve@steveq.org. The website, which is going to be updated, but that is www.steveq.org. So that's Steve, STEVQ.org. And there's a form on there they can fill in. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I'm also on Facebook as I think it's @SteveQ Sales. So it's easy to find me, or leave a message on the YouTube channel. Yeah, whatever.
Fantastic, brilliant. Well, Steve, I just want to end by saying thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure interviewing you. I've really enjoyed it, and no doubt we will speak soon.
I hope so, Michelle. And you know, just on that discovery call, they don't last 30 minutes. They usually last like an hour or an hour and 30 minutes. Yeah. And I don't mind that. And sometimes people come back and sometimes people don't, you know, but I always try to give some value and some insights to help people on those calls, regardless of whether they actually come back and sign up for some training. You see what I mean? So I'll be as helpful as I possibly can, because that's the place of intent that that I'm coming from. Yeah, so very happy to do that with anybody who's got a problem, an issue, or a bit of a conundrum when it comes to their sales. Yeah,
brilliant. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. And likewise, if anyone does want to contact me, and I can obviously, you know, point them in the direction of yourself, Steve. All right.
Perfect, Michelle. Thanks very much.
All right, Steve. Lovely to speak to you. Take care.
See you next time. Bye-bye. Bye.